Hi, this is Lundy Kiger, and I want to welcome you to video 10 of Living to Tell About It. This is the last video of this particular series, but it's not the last of the work that is going to take place. I want to get into a lot of details in this last video, and what I want to talk about, and this is what we've titled this video: was my death real, or was it just a dream? If you've watched the videos there, and especially on my website, livingtotellabout.org, I put a lot of my resume on the website. I put a lot of pictures from my life on the website. When I got out of college, I was in the restaurant business. A franchise Pizza Hut that I worked. I had 4 that I managed. And when I was 21, went into public education, taught 15 years, and then spent 27 years in the power industry with a Fortune 100 company that produced electricity, and I was also executive vice president of Indianapolis Power and Light. Got my own business now, and I don't mention that just to say, look at me and look what I did. I put that on the website, and I talk about it here just to give you a reference of who I am and what I've done. I also served in the Oklahoma State Legislature. I think it's important for everyone to know who makes a claim such as the claim that I've made. When you stop and you think about it, and just refresh memories, I was stung right here on the face on June 30th, 2021 by something. I'm sure it was a wasp of some kind, or a hornet. And I immediately went into anaphylactic shock, and within 2 minutes it had restricted all my blood flow and airflow. I was able to get some, but my heart was racing out of control. And if you watch the video of the sting and those that followed after that, you can see in the story that along the way, in the 9 videos prior to this one, there are a lot of different things that took place. But what I want to talk about is, for those who are listening, and one of the things that took place was God told me to tell this to those who believe. And as I said, I didn't understand it in the beginning, but I understand it now, because there are a lot of people who believe, and there are a lot of people who want to increase their faith. And I want to make it perfectly clear. I'm someone who has a life that is a good life, fairly well known in the community. The last thing I want is someone to think that I'm some kind of crackpot or idiot. And when somebody tells a story such as I tell, and I put myself in the shoes of other people of listening to it, and even for me, it would be hard to believe if somebody came up, and everybody's come up and told almost everybody a story about their life and supernatural experience that has taken place, and we walk away thinking, man, that was really amazing, or man, that guy's a crackpot, one of the two. And so, I understand that there's going to be skeptics, but I think, as you know, I really don't care. I have one mission, I have one responsibility, and I want to talk a little more in detail about that. And that is to do what the living God has instructed me to do. I think about people of the Bible and some of the miraculous things that took place, especially in the Exodus, when the Israelites were removed. Moses led them out of Egypt. They went to the Red Sea, it parted. when they got past the Red Sea, covered up all the Romans. God provided food, he provided water, he provided light, he provided everything they need. And when Moses went to the mountain to speak to God and to receive the commandments, as you know, there were many who decided that they had forgotten God already. Just 40 days, less than 40 days. And, you know, I've thought about different Bible stories and thinking, how could you see something like that and not respond and not believe, and it just change your life? And when I look back on what took place with me, it changed my life and it got my attention. And one of the things that I promised God that I would do is I would not embellish this story, that I would not add to, and I wouldn't try to take away anything at all as you read in the scriptures, not to do. But understand this, there's going to be a day that I'm going to stand before the living God, and all 10 videos that I've done and the videos that we're going to do, I'll have to have an account for those. And God has already seen every one of them. But I will have to stand before the living God, and I know what I'm doing. I know what he told me to do. And I have no problem whatsoever doing the work that I have done up to this point, but also doing the work that I'm preparing to do. Because as the Holy Spirit spoke to me once before, you've got more to do. And as I've learned, and as you'll see in upcoming video lessons, you'll see a lot of things that I learned along the way. So let me get into some of the specifics of, was my death a dream, or was it real? And I want to go back to 6 months prior to June 31st, 2021, back to January, but just a few months before January, as I've said in the other videos. My wife in 2020 lost her father. A few months later, lost her mother. A few months later, I lost my mother. A few weeks later, I lost my brother. And then we lost uncles, we lost cousins, we lost aunts. And as I mentioned, every time the phone would ring, especially at night, it was who's passed away now. And that was enough to get my attention that I made the decision that I was going to go after God. I was going to learn about him, even though I'd been a Christian. But I was going to get really serious about God and getting to know him. I was going to go to work on building a strong personal relationship with the Lord. I've had a personal relationship with the Lord, but it's never been strong as far as where it's at today. It's been very strong at times, but I have reached new levels. I have seen things and been involved in things that before would have just blown my mind. And now when I see them, no, I don't look at them as, was that real or not? Because with the Lord, all things are possible. But let me walk you through a little bit what happened just a day or two before the sting. I'd mentioned that I was at the highest level that I'd ever been in my life, in my service to God. I mean, it was every day, every moment. The feeling was amazing. I mean, it was just, Lord, if it's like this, take me any time that you want to take me. And that was my attitude. That's the way I felt. So if somebody says, well, what did you do special to be able to experience what you experienced? I'd say this. I made a decision that I was going to go after the Lord. I was going to search after him. I was going to know him, and I wanted him to know me, and I was going to serve him. That's it. That's all that I did, and that's what he asked us to do in the Bible. I just happened for the first time in my life to get very serious about it and do it, I think, the right way, because it changed my life, and I was so public about it. I'm so public about everything that I do. But keep in mind, on the morning of June 30th, 2021, I was way up here. And what I want to talk to you this time about is after I was stung. I've already mentioned in the previous videos that my heart raced, I couldn't get air. Everything changed from color to black and white. And I remember distinctly telling the Lord, Lord, I'm dying. And I had just maybe 30, 40 seconds before I passed out. And as I was laying on the ground and my wife was calling the ambulance, you know, I got less than a minute that I just opened my eyes. I couldn't speak, I couldn't move. All I could do was just open my eyes. And the very first thing I thought was, God is giving me one last look. And I could hear my wife in the background. I could hear her voice, and I said to myself, I hate so bad leaving her this way. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. Death was there. And that was the second time that I confirmed that I was dying. And then right before the end got there, I remember saying, I cannot believe it's a wasp that stung me and I'm dying from a sting. And then I got excited. That was the third time. Then I got excited. And the feeling, the atmosphere that was wrapped all around me was the most amazing and the most incredible thing that has ever happened. And I knew that I was dying. I knew that I was leaving, and I actually felt death coming. And I knew that it was over, and I closed my eyes, and then immediately I opened my eyes. So those are the things that I remember before my life came to an end. And I remember them as if it was this morning. And then when I opened my eyes and I was not human anymore, I was not physical anymore. In fact, I was up off of the ground. I could see far out. I could see where we were going, and I looked and I saw someone there, and I knew that it was the Spirit of God. And I'm excited. I am just so excited about it because it feels so great, and I know that we're leaving and we're going to where everybody wants to go when their time comes to an end. And I said, God, where are we going? And we started taking off. So, as I said in the sting, as we took off, I yelled, stop, wait. I can feel something. And I knew it was down below me, and I knew just exactly what it was. It was human life, and I knew at that moment that it was over. And then I went blank. I immediately opened my eyes. It could have been a short time, and I was in the back of an ambulance, and I was throwing up. You know, when I was in the ambulance, that's when I could tell the change, because I had just gone from being on top of the world. I had just come from getting stung and knowing that I was dying. I'd just come from speaking to the Spirit of God and seeing the path that we were leaving on from this world. And I can remember some of the ride in the ambulance. I can remember some of the 5 or 6 hours in the emergency room. And I can remember that first night, the first night I'd ever stayed in the hospital. And all that excitement, all that was in me from that morning and the days before of being up here in my relationship with God, all of it, it was was just gone. I mean, it was totally gone. And, you know, I'll be the first one to say it was like confusion. Okay, I was happy I was leaving, and I'm not there anymore. I'm going to tell you, I was disappointed. I was so down, and it was like, what am I doing here? And I remember telling my wife when she came in after I was in the emergency room, I have no idea what I said, but I said, my life's never going to be the same again. That's one thing I did know, but it took me almost 3 months to recover to where I could get out and I could go to work and I could do the things that I needed to do. And it gave me a lot of time for prayer. It gave me a lot of time for discussion with her, because I had 15 minutes or less of time that I wasn't aware of what took place. And as I've said in other videos, I wore her out talking to her. Okay, tell me what happened at this time. What happened at this time? When did the ambulance come? What was it that the paramedic said? And all of that, I mean, I put it together, and I finally, on one of the videos, got it down where I had the videographer put up, this is the moment when death took place. And as the paramedic got there, the first thing my wife said he did was try to get a blood pressure, and he couldn't get a blood pressure. And then they were able to revive me. I really thought it was the epi shot that really kicked me in, but I really believe that it started before the shot. And you know, it just made sense until she started filling it in. But then, as we did these videos, there were so many things that I learned that I didn't know that took place. I didn't know all the prayers, the calls, and all the different things that had happened, and it just warmed my heart. And as I said in the last video, I was so confused, and I became so frustrated because, you know, I knew what I was supposed to do, because a few days after the Lord spoke to me. The Lord's never spoke to me before, that I thought, but after the Lord spoke, I can remember now when I was younger, a teenager, and then I can remember when I was younger as a child and right before junior high. I believe the Lord speaks to all of us. We just don't recognize it, but I recognize it now. And if I have questions, I can ask, and the Lord will answer those. He tells us in His Word, you ask, and He'll give an answer. May not like the answer, but He's going to give an answer. So, trying to figure out, I had moments of wondering about what had taken place. I mean, I had plenty of time to think about it. I had plenty of time to go over it, over it, over it, and over it. And it was just amazing to me, especially with the number of people in our community that have lost their lives over the last year, especially those under 50, that I was on my way, and death, I was able to avoid it. So it's put me in a position that, you know, I'm not going to waste this. I'm not going to be like the Israelites to see the Red Sea part and then not keep my faith. I made a commitment to God before my death, and I'm going to keep that commitment. But I want you to know that it was a state of confusion of being back in this world. I wasn't gone very long, seconds maybe. But the experience of the death, knowing that I was going to die, knowing that I closed my eyes, feeling death coming, feeling the Lord wrapped around me with His love, and then speaking to the Holy Spirit, and we're on our way. and then it all stops. It was heartbreaking, and it was confusing, and I've got no reason not to be anything but totally honest, but there were moments that I would catch myself and I would think, is this real? Is this place real? Am I in another place? That's where I was. And the Lord speaking to me, and the Lord blessing me with the work that we're doing here, and what the Lord does afterwards, and what the Lord is teaching me now, puts me in a situation where it just confirms over and over and over, yes, it was real. Yes, your life came to an end. It was a short time. But why in the world did I come back? Why in the world did the Lord allow me to come back? So it took weeks for me and a few months to finally get back to where I was on the morning of the sting, psychologically, emotionally, because I was trying to find my way. I was trying to figure out what is it that I'm supposed to do. And then when the Lord told me what I was supposed to do, I'm trying to figure out, how do I do that? I've got Facebook and I can go talk to people, but how do I tell this story? And the Lord provided an answer. I didn't listen. It took me a while, but we finally got on the same page, and I finally went back to what he said, and doors began to open. I mean, many began to open. And, I can go to dinner in town, or I can go into a store in town, and somebody will say, I really enjoy listening to your story. It has really helped me so much in my faith. And that's what this is all about. And I know that I have a responsibility to tell this story for people and their faith, but I'm going to tell you, if there's anyone that their faith grows from this story, anyone from hearing it and it being told, it's me. I'm the one that probably benefits the most of it, or from it, because it is something that I want to think about all the time. And the other thing that takes place, that has taken place, that helps confirm to me, was this real or was it a dream as far as dying? When I came home, there was some confusion about I was leaving and now I'm back. But there is one thing that was crystal clear on the first night that I got back. A lot of the fear that I had inside me, a lot of the fears of death, a lot of the fear of getting hurt or something happening, it just seemed like it had vanished. It was gone. I'm going to be totally honest on my thoughts and how I feel, and I think about this every time I tell it, because somebody I know that in the audience is going to say, well, don't you love your wife? Don't you love your children? Yes. But I've made it very clear to them, I love them after God. God is first. And I'm telling you, we can say it, but to do it and to live it is so difficult. It takes effort, because the evil one is there and he's pushing on you all the time. You have to wake up every morning and say, this is what I'm going to do. I am not going to miss heaven because of something in this world. So I look at death totally different. I hear about a death. I hear about something that happened to someone, and it breaks my heart to know that somebody has lost their life, especially somebody that is young. But when I ask myself, Was it real or was it just a dream? I've got to tell you, when I hear of a death that has taken place, I think about my own death. And I think about how wonderful it was. You know, I've got it on my website. The day you die didn't have to be the worst day of your life. You know, where did that come from? And then I also add to it, the day I died was the best day of my life. If somebody told me years ago that I'd be saying this, I'd say they're crazy. How can I say that? It's because I've not only come into the contact with the blood of Christ, but I've also come into contact with my Lord. So the one thing that there was no confusion about was knowing that being with God is the most important thing. And to be with God, you have to die. You have to be on the other side of this life. And I found myself being envious of those who are believers that have gone on, because I know what it feels like. And I know what it feels like, not just when this life ends, but to be in the other world and that life begins. I know what it feels like not to be human, not to have the mass, but you're still you. And to me, that is one of the greatest messages, especially for those who have lost loved ones, that your loved one is still who they were. They're just not here in physical form, they're in spiritual form. But when I crossed over and went to the other side, I was still Lundy. I knew who I was. Now, I could not remember the things that I had left. I knew that I had left the world, and I knew that I was leaving the world, but I couldn't remember at that moment my family. I couldn't remember all the different things that goes along with life. But everything was so vivid, everything was so real, everything today is still in my memory, as I said, just like it happened this morning. I mean, we've done 10 videos and there's not been a note used, there's not been a script, there's not been a teleprompter. This is all from the mind and all from the heart. And believe me, I'm an average person. I'm not anything above average when it comes to intelligence to be able to recall that, but it was such a significant emotional event in my life that it is there and it's burned into my mind. So, yes, I love my wife, I love my children, but I love my God the most, and they know that and they understand that. And, you know, I don't know when death is going to come, but I do know this: whenever it comes, I'm not going to be sad, because I'm going to try to do everything I can to live my life in a way that He would have me to live it. And yes, I make mistakes. Yes, I'm going to fall short. And I have the ability to ask Him to forgive me. But my relationship with God is what started all this. And me making the decision that I was going to build a stronger personal relationship, and I've done that. But all the different things that have happened in these 10 videos that I've told you about, to me, there's some amazing things. They may not seem gigantic to somebody, but when you put them all together, they're just incredible. To see that the living God is here and He interacts in our life and He is there for us. And I limited myself years before. Yes, I believed, but I didn't believe with my heart. And I missed out on so many blessings that I'm receiving now, but I'm not going to look back and hate it. I'm going to be thrilled and thankful for where I'm at right now. So as we come to the close of this video, I ask myself, what's next? I don't sit around and think up what's next. I pray about it. God gives me direction. But what we're working to prepare for now is something that I think is one of the most important things that I'll ever do in my life. And that's to be able to have someone interview me about the sting, about the death, about everything that has happened with one purpose. And it's not to put me in front of the camera. It's not for me to get publicity. It's for me to tell everyone that God is real. This is what he did in my life, and this is what he'll do in your life. It'll be a different circumstance. It'll be a different story. But I tell what I experienced and what I went through as encouragement. I'm not a preacher. I'm not affiliated doing this with the church. I do this for those who believe to hear, with the hope that it'll encourage them and their faith will grow. But I can tell you, over these weeks, and especially this last week, my relationship with God has increased. It has grown so much. And I am learning more about God than I ever thought that I would learn about him personally, and about who he is and how he interacts. And I'll be the first one to say, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know where the relationship's going to go. But I know that it is up to me. It's in my control to push and ask, and to be there for him, and to question and to seek. I've had a good life, but I've had a lot of things in my life that have been terrible. And this is the best time of my life. Not because of my company, not because that it's doing well. That's another thing. A lot of the things in my life just don't mean anything anymore. They're still important, they're goals, but they're not the priority. The priority is God. The priority is living for him. And when I do that, and I do it correctly, it fills me up so much that it makes life worth living. So I hope that you'll take what I've said in this video and the 9 previous videos. And I hope that as a believer, as someone who is seeking and searching after answers, that you'll go to God and you'll tell him that you want to build your own strong personal relationship. And if you'll put your heart into it, I promise you it will change your life, because it's changed mine forever. Thank you.